Hello, my friends. Welcome to Ask Me Anything About Nursing or Nursing School. And I will be brutally honest. The show where the answers are not always in favor of the nursing profession, but we're going to have a lot of hopefully great questions and insights, and maybe we'll giggle a little. I think we'll probably be here for, I'm thinking, about an hour, and I'll just go down the list and get to as many questions as I can. Nothing is off limits. Like I said, this will be very, very honest. I have no, I feel like a lot of times people try to put a spin on these things, and it's like, I'm always going to put everything in a favorable light. If you know me at all, no friends. I'll be brutally honest. We have hello in the chat. We have Mama Nurse and we have Nurse Scott. They will probably give you much nicer answers than I have a lot of the time. So if you need some compassion and some calmness and be like, oh my gosh, is everything okay? They're going to be your people. Hello, Carol. Karen, wow, brain, eyeballs, Cody, everyone in the chat, welcome, welcome, Montana Gal, Melody Nolan, hello, how are you? And Mel, hello, Mel. So basically, yeah, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna run down the list. If you're watching this on the replay, welcome. I will have timestamps in about a day or two, hopefully, that we can put up, and we can go from there. So if you have a specific question, you can go back and look at that. I did not ask Instagram for any questions because I figured we would probably eventually have enough on here. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, by all means, just leave them in the chat. As Nurse Scott says, he's the one that still loves nursing. I'm a little bit grumpy with it. That's probably no shock. If this is your first video here, I'm Liz. I'm a family nurse practitioner, and I'm grumpy about nursing. But I also still kind of like it. It's a very love-hate relationship. It's probably a little toxic. Hello, Sean, Bryce, David Ramirez. Hello, hello. Thanks for being a channel member, and nursing student Carrie. Hello. Thanks for being a channel member. I appreciate you. If you want to support the channel and, hear extra little rants I'm about to do one on my lovely skin condition that is where I basically got poison ivy and then it turned into a second-degree burn all over my body. Put that on there. Just like, why not overshare? Why not overshare? That seems like an excellent way to start this day. Let us see. It is complicated. It's a very complicated relationship. I recently did a video that I'll try to remember to link below on would we do nursing again? And it was nice because it was like a panel discussion and a bunch of different people gave their answers. My answer was I probably wouldn't do nursing again, but everyone else said they would. So if that gives you any hope, I think I would have gone back and been a instructional design person or something, something more in the creative space that I just didn't even know existed back then. But whatever. You live and you learn. It's fine. Oh, I can take my name off because this is not a group chat. So we can take that off. Okay, perfect. Cody Esterline said, oh, I just got out of the hospital today for poison ivy. It stinks. I am very sorry. Yeah. It was pretty awful. I hope you're feeling a lot better. 2.5 weeks ago, I got poison ivy and then it became systemic, which I didn't even really know it could happen. And now I have reactive arthritis. So all of my joints ache and I walk like hunched over, like I'm 90 years old and I shuffle. I can't walk. So I can't really type. I have to dictate everything. It's been an adventure. I hope yours was not that bad. And now all my skin's falling off and it's I'm worried. I think I'm going to scar. It really looks like I looked like a burn victim, which was not ideal. All right, let's get to the topic at hand. Hopefully, Cody, yours is feeling better. Catherine Vandeholen. Hello. Started nursing fundamentals last week, and I have no clue the best way to study. That's because nursing fundamentals is stupid and shouldn't be a class. Any study tips? Yes. So nursing fundamentals is really difficult because it's boring and a lot of it doesn't have, especially if you're doing the theories bit of it and it's just all over the place and it's really weird stuff where you're how, like you said, how am I even going to study this? I will say at the top of this, I am a huge fan, mostly because I help create the product of any kind of Lecturio nursing product for nurses and NPs. I do, full disclosure, work for them, but that I work for them because I liked it so much I asked them for a job. So what that is like a nursing study app. So I'll probably reference that a lot, but I reference it because it's like actually helpful. Basically, what it does is it has every single nursing school class and it has lectures on it that are like 10-ish minutes. You can download them. Some of them are, it's like 3 to 10 minutes. You can download them if you want to listen to them offline. I would listen to them at 2 times speed. And then it gives you notes, it gives you the slides, and then it quizzes you on all the stuff after. And it gives you like, it asks you quiz questions. If you get the question wrong, you can go back and it'll quiz you on that more often. And then if you get it right, it's like, oh, yay, we won't waste your time learning that anymore. And then you can do practice tests when you are getting ready for a test, and you set it up and you tell it what topics within your subject. So if you were taking like a fundamentals exam, you could pick what subtopics in the fundamentals class you were going to have your exam on, and you could do a practice test. And then if you get some wrong, it'll tell you where to go back and study. So I personally think that's great. It also has a study planner where you literally can like go in and be like, hey, I don't know how to organize my time because it's overwhelming, and you send it a due date and it will fill it all in and tell you what to study when. So I do, since like I said, I work for them, have a discount code. It's the best one they ever do all year. It's $99 a year for nurses. If you do the yearly, if you click the link, I think I left it in my bio. If not, I will hopefully. Rachel check for me. And nurse practitioners, I forget how much it is, but I swear by that. It did not exist when I was in nursing school, and that is helpful. They do have a fundamentals course, but my biggest tip for fundamentals is just survive. Okay. Which isn't very helpful, but just survive. Go in. I recommend meeting all of your teachers, just going in and dropping by their office hours just to like make yourself there and trying just the way you get through, the way that you're going to get through theory and fundamentals is by reminding yourself, if I fail, I have to take this again. Okay. That's literally how I survived. Fundamentals is hard. Fundamentals, you'll get a better feel for, to be totally honest, after your first exam too, because in fundamentals, it's the weird non-concrete things, right? So it's hard to actually study. But always remember when you're looking at the exam, safety. Okay. Safety is the number one thing you need to worry about. Okay. So that's what you can keep in the back of your mind. If you have any more specific questions, let me know. But that's the big one there. Shandi Ballard said, I'm just starting in nursing, changed my major this semester. Don't know where the rest is. We'll find. Have most of the prereqs done. My question is, I feel very old to be doing this and have a constant anxiety of failing. Anyone else experience that? If so, how does one calm the anxiety? I think Nurse Scott is also, he says, you're never too old. And so here's the thing. If you already have life experience, in my experience, you do much better in nursing and NP school because you're more established, you know yourself better. You're much better able to prioritize. I like to tell people, like, I was a much better student when I was in my NP because I was much more mature. I had, a house that I needed to take care of. I had a dog. I had a child. Like, I knew myself. When I was in nursing school, I was even older for nursing school because I did an accelerated program after my bachelor's, but I was still having a good time. You know what I mean? Like, having a good time in life. And I was not as serious and just as studious and as focused as I was when I was older. So use your previous life experiences to your advantage. You've gained so much just like living life. You know how to talk to people already. You know how to kind of organize yourself. You know when you study best. You know the way you learn best, probably. So I would not feel or try not to feel, I'm not trying to tell you how to feel. I would focus on that versus like, am I going to fail? Because I can almost promise you that since you are someone who is not like a 20-year-old, you are going to have an easier time being able to just like prioritize and understand what's important too. You know what I mean? Like when I was in nursing school, I used to think like certain things were the end of the world. Like, oh my gosh, like this exam, it's the end of the world. And then when I was 30 and in NP school, I was like, oh, like actually in reality, like it's just a test. You know what I mean? Your perspective's way better. So just take a moment, deep breaths through that. And in terms of like feeling too old, think about how many years you have left to work. So that's really helpful to kind of put it into perspective. And if it is, you're going to have to live those years and work those years anyway. So I would say as long as it's enough time to pay your loans off, if you're going to have them, then go for it. You know what I mean? I would rather personally feel like, oh, I don't have to wonder like what if here with my career. So I would view it honestly as just, yeah, how much longer do you have? Are you going to be able to pay off your loans? And go for it. Is it something that at the end of you think your career when you retire, if you're like, oh, I wish I would have done that, then go for it. You're not too old. There were tons and tons of people in my accelerated nursing program that were adults. Like I say adults, and that shows you my mind space when I went to nursing school. Adults for me was anyone over 30. I was like, wow, look at you. And now I'm like horrified at that mindset. But they did much better and they had a much better handle on things. They didn't cry. We all cried. Us younger, the younger crowd. So I would say use it to your advantage that it'll be okay. You'll be okay. You won't fail. And if you fail, you know it's not the end of the world. You can just retake a class. And that's okay. Many, many, many people have failed classes in nursing school and lived to tell about it. Michael PA said, what's your opinion on osmosis and how is it different than Lecturio? Osmosis, to be totally honest, I have not dabbled a ton in osmosis, but they have great YouTube videos. So you can go check them out as well. I don't, but I don't really know. That's a great question. Go check them out. And if you love osmosis, wonderful. And tell us in the chat. They're probably great as well. I really don't know a ton about osmosis. How does it compare to ATI? So Lecturio has a lot better videos than ATI. That I do know. So ATI is mostly a testing thing. And so ATI has great questions, but their content, when you want to go back and look at stuff, and like learn new content kind of stinks, in my opinion, from like playing around with it. ATI has the benefit, I think, of it's been around forever and they've relied a little bit too heavily on that. And so I think it's helpful to learn a different way, but I like learning by video. So if you don't like learning by video, I mean, Lecturio might not work super well because it's like video lectures that are just like more broken down and easier to understand. So I think our learning material is better than ATI's, whereas ATI's is more of like a study questions type of thing. And this kind of combines both, which is nice. I've heard ATI was just rough when I took it, and I have not heard excellent things since then, but they're so established in the schools that all the schools use them. So they kind of are just like, nursing school doesn't like change. So they have their people. But we're trying to attack ATI head on. Sean Hudson said, I have been a pharmacy technician for 18 years and I'm taking pharmacy in my first semester of nursing school. Do you think that would be an advantage for me in regards to this class or any other meds? Yes. Yes. 1,000% yes. Everyone in Sean's class become their friend. The only thing it might end up harming you is you're going to probably know what these meds do in real life. And nursing school is like the perfect bubble. You know what I mean? And so you're going to see it and you're going to be like, oh, this med is for this. And nursing school might have a different reason for it because you're looking at an off-label use. So just be careful with that to like take off your work goggles and put on like nursing student, I live in a perfect world goggles. Is that, if that makes sense. Cody Esterline is Lecturio comparative to Kaplan. Same with Kaplan is Kaplan's better for NCLEX than Lecturio is right now because that product is not fully, I would not recommend like Lecturio just for NCLEX studying. I would still go with like Kaplan or something else, or UWorld at this moment. But again, kind of what same with ATI. I feel like having played around in all three, we have Lecturio has a better background. So when you need to go understand a topic, that's where I think that one shines. And that's what I needed more help with because I YouTubed my way through nursing school. I don't know if any of you did that, but I YouTubed my way through nursing and NP school because my teachers didn't teach a lot and I hated reading books. I could not learn from a book. They just put me to sleep. And so I needed like better video lectures, and that's kind of better than Kaplan's lectures. If you watch Kaplan's lectures or ATI's lectures, they're very sterile. It's like You're like, "Oh my gosh, like this is painful." But ours are from like people who are everyone's like practicing still. I don't know, and they just have like more life in them, but maybe I'm biased. They do have free videos you can go watch or go watch them on YouTube. I'm in charge of releasing the YouTube video, like picking what videos go up on YouTube. So if you search Lecturio nursing, you can see like how to put in an IV, where Sam will like walk you literally through how to put an IV in. And I've I think I tried to put up a good playlist for back to school. So just go check those out. You will find more videos on YouTube for free than on the platform. On the platform, a lot of them are locked, but I just kind of go crazy and I'm supposed to put up free videos. But here's a secret. I just put up whatever videos I want. So hopefully no one from work is watching this. Because I'm like, well, that's not really helpful. I'm just going to go do this one instead. So they have great videos on YouTube. And if you want all the videos on the platform, like I said, it's $99 a year for nurses. And I think 128 maybe for nurse practitioners, but that's just a guess. Nurse practitioners technically have the medical school one, so they're pretty in depth. Nursing student carry. I YouTubed my way through all my prerequisites. Yes. They do have some prereqs on there, but for most of your prereqs, you're going to want to check out Khan Academy. Khan Academy is how you will survive. My friends, that is how we will do it. How does one make it through patho? So patho is once again, Lecturio has an I'm going to sound like a broken record, but Rhonda is the teacher for patho for go watch some of her patho videos on YouTube. The woman like is a magician with teaching patho things and breaks it down really well. But the key to patho, no matter what, is breaking it down and knowing what you have to learn and what you don't have to know. Okay. So the biggest thing for this is to go to your syllabus and only study like I would go to the syllabus and it would have all the modules, right? And it's like this module's objective. And I would write down the objectives of what that module wanted me to learn. So say it's the respiratory system. I would write at the top of the page, it would give you like the objectives here. And I would go and I would get a separate piece of paper for everything. And I would write at the top what the objective was. And then I would go and find in the book or on YouTube, I would watch enough videos or whatever that I could answer all of the objectives, and then I would move on. You don't read the whole section. There's a lot of extra fluff in there. You just study what's on the objectives because technically that should be what's on your exam. If that doesn't end up being the case, then you can go to your teacher and be like, WTF, mate, why? And go from there. But that is how you will tackle patho, is by doing that. And then after you have made all your objectives and you've read it through and try to just like put the connections in place, right? And think worst case scenario. Okay. So for every single thing you read in patho, you're like, oh, this is what's happening. Also be thinking, and when I'm learning about this GI system, like, what is the worst thing that could happen? And it's going to show you like Crohn's or something else like that. And think in that way to try to connect the dots, because nursing school exams are going to ask you about safety and just making sure that you understand worst case scenario safety type things. So that is my best approach to patho, is just go through and only study to the objectives. If you're looking through your book and you really need help with patho, I mean, if you really need to break it down, just read the things that the book puts in boxes or gives you colored pictures of. Because if the book bothered to print a color photo of the thing, it's important. So just go through and read the boxes and look at the pictures and be like, and if it seems like you don't quite understand it, YouTube it or read a little bit more in the book, or get a study planner of any of these things that we've talked about. Like get some kind of a study website. I know some people like Picmonic. I used Picmonic in school and I thought it was really helpful because that was what was available and that's what I used. And I thought it was great. So find something to kind of help you, or YouTube, free, great resource, and go that way. I hope that helps. June, same. Any tips to survive a 5-week course? A 5-week course. I'm taking OB, odds, and psych, and each are 5 weeks with 4 exams. That's awful. I'm sorry. That's awful. I mean, you're going to have to just plan it out. So the thing hopefully that's all you're taking. like at one time, I'm hoping. Those are not wild classes on their own. Psych will probably be the most heavy. Um, out of all of those, what you're going to do before the semester, this is going to be like all nursing school. You'll want to look at your semester. You're going to have your day of doom, as I call it, and you're going to lay out. This is before school starts. You're going to lay out your planner, and you're going to look at every single assignment that's due. You're going to put them all in your planner. You're going to put every single assignment, and then for the whole semester, and then you're going to go cry. And you're going to go have ice cream, whatever you want to do to make yourself feel better on your day of doom. But all your assignments are in there, and then since it's only 5 weeks, I mean, at the beginning of the week, you're just going to want to look ahead to like either that week or the next week and write down doable goals. Okay. Like break up all the work by day, by how much time you have, and only be like really realistic with yourself. Don't be like me where you're filling out your planner and you're like, oh, look, like my whole Monday is still filled in my planner of like 50 things that I was supposed to do because I'm unrealistic. You should be realistic so that you can actually cross these things off and feel proud of yourself. Just make really realistic goals and stick to them. You're not going to want to study every day, but you're going to have to study every day because you only have 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 weeks. That's not a lot of time. And so but you don't look at the whole semester. You can't look at the whole thing after your day of doom. You never are going to look at the whole thing and be like, oh, wow, I have 5 weeks to learn an entire course, because you're only going to look at your 1 week that you planned out at the beginning of the week. And then you move on to the next one and you just look at that week. And then before you know it, it's over. But that's what you're going to do. You need to break it down so you don't look at the 5 weeks ever again, other than your day of doom. And you're going to eat the elephant one bite at a time. You can do this, and then come back and let us know what you did and how it's going. I'm also having a moment because Scott says he's 54 and getting his MSN. And you look really good for 54, Scott. I would never have guessed that you were 54. So kudos to you. We'll need your skincare routine later. Santa Ray says, I am 4 weeks away from the end of my first semester. Woohoo! Congratulations. I've maintained all A's. However, I don't feel I know a thing. What can I do to retain info? I'm afraid to go to clinicals unprepared and incompetent. Well, that's very impressive. I was very much a not A student. So I'm always very impressed when people get A's because that's just it's not my reality. And that's very normal to not feel like you know anything. I feel like I did a video a while ago on, I'll try to remember to link it, of I'm graduating from nursing school and I don't know anything. And that's normal because it took me a long time to realize that that's normal. So that feeling that you're having right now, it's called imposter syndrome, where you're like, I don't know anything. And the reason that is because nursing school doesn't teach things well. They teach things in chunks and they don't integrate it very well. So it's not you, it's the system. Nursing school can use a big overhaul. I think we should blow it up and build it back up from the ground. But because of the way they teach, it doesn't lend you to really understand concepts, and they don't put you in clinical enough early on, in my opinion, where you can really put the pieces together and understand what this looks like as a whole. So you're being shown pieces of things, which is impossible to put together on your own if you've never been in there looking at a patient being like, oh, this is how I'm making the connections. So you're going to graduate from nursing school. Like, this is probably not what you want to hear, but you're going to go to clinical and you're not going to have a clue. And then you're going to go to nursing school and you're not going to have a clue, but it's going to come together when you're in the setting all the time and you start seeing all the puzzle pieces coming together. And then your brain will like kick back from like all the classes that you're obviously doing well in and learning a lot in, and it'll be able to fill in that. So like the backstory, and it'll pick up all those pieces and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And even if you don't remember it specifically, your brain will be like, hey, Santa, remember when you learned this? Like, this is a red flag. We should look into it more. And then you'll be able to look into it more. So you're not wasting your time, but you're also very much not alone in that you don't feel like you know what you're doing, because that's totally normal. Totally normal. Chat, let her know if this is totally normal. I think it's totally normal. I felt like this. Everyone I went to school with felt like this. Every single person I've ever graduated with felt like this, or worked with. Every single person I've ever precepted, every nursing student I've had has felt this exact same way, because we just don't train people very well. Or we don't do it in a way that I feel like is conducive to like really learning. So when you go to clinical, you will know more than you think you do, but it won't necessarily show up. So in clinical, focus on learning one task a day. Okay. And then mostly you're there to absorb and be a sponge and like put the pieces together. And if the nurse has time, ask them like, how is this coming together? Why are they on these meds? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Like understanding why you're doing the treatments. Why are they going for these tests? How is this playing in? And just asking lots of the why questions. Why are you prioritizing this over that? And then learn your one thing a day, as well as asking those questions, and the pieces will come together. You will be fine. I promise. It's just, you're not the only one feeling like that. You, my dear, are not alone. Samsara Sterling, sorry. What is the best test prep for AANP? So this is for a nurse practitioner exam. I took the AANP for my FNP, and I did Fitzgerald. It was fine. If I could go back, I would do I have a whole video about it. I'll have to link it down below. It's been like 4 years, friends, and I don't specifically remember the name anymore. What was her name? There was Amelie someone. I will find it and I will link it down below. I think, here, let me Google it. I can do it. I forgot I had Google. No, keyboard wasn't working. Amelie, AANP, FNP study. Amelie Hollier. This. She explains things in a really cool way. If your brain just works a little bit different, this human, I'm going to put it in the chat, explains things really, really well. So I did Fitzgerald. I went to the live lecture. I read the book, and then my friend did Amelie's, and she gave me the recordings, and I immediately switched over to only listening to these, and they were the ones that actually were helpful. So I really, really liked hers as a studying material to like review everything. And then I used just like question banks and just did a bunch of questions from what is FNP exam practice questions. There was a book. What was the book called? I have it all linked in my, it was this. You can't see it, so that's not very helpful to you. Family nurse practitioner. I'll find it and link it down below. But there was a book, and I read all the questions in there, and I read all the rationales, and I paid attention to the fast, whatever. Like at the end of this section, it would like give you all the review. Like you absolutely have to know this, and that's what I did. And so that was. You're never going to feel ready for that one, my friend, but you can do it. You can do the hard things. That test is just a beast. Lydia Shepard said, did you take the T's, and how hard was it to study? Also, any advice for prereqs, specifically anatomy and physiology 1 and 2? I did not have to take the T's. So the T's is an entrance exam. People usually either have to take the T's or the, what's the other one? There's a different one. Can't remember it. Hesse. Hesse is funny. It reminds me of hussy. But I did not because my school, I was paying out of state tuition and they wanted my money. So they were like, I don't even care. Like I was already enrolled and I graduated. And then after I graduated, I went back for my accelerated program. And since I was out of state, literally the school for all the out-of-state people, they were like, well, you graduated from here. I'm sure you're fine. We will take your out-of-state tuition. Please and thank you. So University of Delaware. Priorities. So I didn't, but I would just find any book. I think they're going to be fine. It's going to be the same thing. Study for, I believe, is it the T's that has more questions? If you look up T's versus Hesse, there's one that has more topics. Study for the one that has more topics, so you should be fine. And that way, in case your school that you're applying to like happens to have the other one, you'll be prepared for both tests. Study for all the sections. Just do a bunch of practice questions. That's the best way for that one. And then anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. So for the anatomy part, go online, go to the good old Google and type in the body part that you're studying. So if you're studying the brain, the sections of the brain, let me see if we can do this together. We're going to try to do this together. This is impromptu. Hold on. We're going to do it together. And I'll show you what I found to be a very fun way of share screen. It doesn't want me to share my screen. It's like, what are you doing? We did not prepare for this. I'm like, oh no, I know, we're going rogue. It's going to be okay, internet. Okay, so we'll go to the Google and we'll type in brain anatomy. So we go here. And then we want it to be labeled because that's going to be easier. So brain anatomy labeled. We'll go to images. And then we'll find one that we think is pretty. Okay, so we'll pick this one. This one looks pretty to me. I would print this off. Or you could do it like if you have a tablet, you could go here. And I would literally cross off the words where it's labeled. So I would just blank that out and then I would print it and I would put it in, you could put it in a sheet protector, right? And then get a dry erase marker and label it. And then check your work and see if you got it right. If you didn't get it right, go back and label it. And then you can do that to every single body system. And that gives you a really good way of being able to look at it, look at the picture without the names, but in pretty pictures like this. It's kind of like a coloring book that you can use over and over and over and over and over again. And that is all you can do. You can use for everything. So, oh, and look, they even gave you it in here without like the lines if you want to do it that way. And Tim says it's printable. So Tim has your back. $4 a month, or I would just Google it for free and be like, I'll just save that image. Thank you. So that is how I do anatomy. Physiology, you can use something like one of those studying apps. Lecturio has physiology and anatomy. You could use just Google YouTube to be like, hey, YouTube, please teach me about neurotransmitters, and it will do so for you. But that's how I would study the anatomy portion. You can do this for anything. You can go to like leg bones anatomy labeled. There you go. Perfect. You'll be like, oh, this is great. Just cross out all those things and then go in and fill it out. And you're done. Perfect. In a sheet protector, dry erase marker. If you need a little bit of therapy in between, I colored mine. Like I would color in all the different shades of the bone. And it just gave me peace. It gave me peace. So that's how I would do that. O'Shane said, what's the best way to study for chemistry in nursing school? You don't want to ask me this question. Chemistry, I'll tell you how I studied in chemistry. And hey, this is all the advice I have. So other than like using Khan Academy, which is free on YouTube, I walked into chemistry and 8 a.m. It was a Weeder course. They used this for trying to get people to change their minds. And I took this when I was pre-med. And I walked in and I found the section of the room that had some dudes that didn't necessarily look like they hung out with girls a lot, sat down right behind them, and then like was chatting with them and just became friendly in a very innocent, like just chatting and being friendly. And then in lab, since I had chatted with them in class, they became my friends in lab. And then they would we would just text and we met for studying, and they were very, very smart. And they were very smart and kind. And they got me through chem and OChem and biochem and micro. These same people that I was like, hi, I'm just going to leash you. We actually did become like very good friends with a few of them. And, but that's how I survived. Was I flirted and just was friendly at 8 a.m. and bubbly. And, so maybe don't do that. Maybe, like I did become some like actually friends with some of them that like I talked to for a very, very long time. But you got to do what you got to do. I'm not good at chemistry. I'm not good at any of that. I still did have, and I cried in my chemistry 2. So I had to take chemistry 1 and 2. I cried in chem 2 in the final, like real sobbing. And microbiology, my whole class probably remembers me because I was a basket case in that final. Because I was like, I've never seen any of this before in my life. But turned out the whole class was doing really bad. The whole class had an average on that final of a 48%. So then they had to like massively curve it because they were like, well, no one can do this. So then I got a D, but I had a B, so I got a C. Woo! But yeah, that's how I studied for that. If anyone else has any tips that are a little bit better, it was that. Yeah. Aaron says knowing systems and how they work and interact helps a lot with patho. Yes, understanding the big picture helps make things make sense. Yes. Also, you can explain topics for a lot of these things to like your inanimate plants, to your dogs, teach them and put it in your own words. And there Scott says chapter summaries. That's perfect. Aaron says vouches for me and says Lecturio was fantastic for patho. Shandi said Picmonic is awesome too. Yes, I used Picmonic for a bunch of them. They were very helpful. Samsura said in another video, you said begin with the end in mind. So what is the best test prep for AA and P? Okay, so for when you're in nurse practitioner school, they're really bad also. There's a trend here with nursing school at pulling it all together for you and being like, here is what you actually need to know. So I would buy a NP review book. You could do this in nursing school too. And when you are reading a section on respiratory illnesses, go to your NP boards exam review book and read the boards exam review book of respiratory illnesses before you are taking. So this would be in nursing school, the equivalent of med surge, but in NP school, it's going to be like acute and chronic conditions 1, acute and chronic conditions 2. Read the board exam review and questions for that, and then apply that to the test. Okay. Because it's going to summarize it and it's going to give you the pharm, the patho, the interventions, the assessment, and it's going to tie it all together because they figure by the time you get to boards that you're putting all the pieces together, right? For nursing school and for NP school. So I found it helpful in NP school. I finally figured this out that I would go read the boards book because I needed someone to put the picture together for me. Because otherwise I was like looking at it and I was like, even if I haven't learned pharm yet, it helps me to understand what is happening as a whole. Because like Aaron said, you can put the pieces together and it just fits so much better. And you're like, oh, I get it now. I can like conceptualize the whole thing. So for nursing and NP school, buy the boards review book. And then when you hit that section in like med surge or even like patho, I guess if you wanted to be like a super extra go-getter, it will tie it together beautifully. And you don't have to know all that information yet, but it helps conceptualize it for and summarizes it. That's the word I wanted. It summarizes it well for the exams when you're looking at them. So that is what I wish I had done in nursing school. Chris, hello, welcome. Thanks for being a channel member. I appreciate you. Says I'm 55 and going for mine. Get it. Get it. Nolan Coolidge. Hello, Liz. I've been trying to catch a live forever. 6 months from graduation, all due to you. Well, that's very, very kind. It's all due to you. I very much assure you. You've done the hard things. Congratulations on you. And yay. Yay for catching a live. Samian said, last year of nursing school starting in a week. Any advice or resources? When you are in, congrats on almost being done. Very exciting. Biggest thing, when you are in clinical, start asking, kind of like I said before, questions about why they're doing things. Why did you prioritize going into this patient's room versus that patient's room? Because at this point, it's going to be helpful to start putting some of these things in your brain of like learning prioritization. Why did you do this instead of that? Why are you asking for that med? You know, if they're paging the provider and being like, hey, can I have Zofran? Why did you ask for that over Phenergan? Why did you ask for, why are we changing this line of tubing? It's because it has to be changed every 72 hours. That's good to know. Why are you changing the TPN every 24 hours instead of every 72 hours? Starting to like put those questions together. What is this? And then a lot of the like, what is this patient? What is the plan going forward? Looking and reading the notes. The nursing notes are fine, but start reading the provider's notes, the daily summaries, and they're going to say the history of why the patient's there, and then what the current plan is, and then like what they need to do to discharge. And it really helps to put everything together. And you'll start putting these puzzle pieces together, which is going to be invaluable to help the concepts kind of like come together. Because right now in nursing school, everything's like, and you need to like, bring it down together. Also, just embrace the fact that as you approach graduation, your feeling of what am I doing is going to go up. Totally normal. Totally normal, my friend. You're going to be just fine. You are going to be absolutely just fine. And yeah, hang in there. The la- you're going to lose motivation at the end, and it's just you just got to keep going. Just got to keep going. Um, that would be my biggest advice. And hmm, anything else? Yeah, just make it. Your last year is usually the easiest. Or not, if not the easiest, it is easier than your junior year if you're in a traditional 4-year program. So you've done the hard part. Now you're just smooth coasting. Vanessa Caro said, "What is the best note taking strategy in nursing school? I feel like I'm all over the place and the information is not sticking well. Stick to, oh, what is happening? Um, play around with it. Okay. Google different, you can look up different notes taking strategies on, like, you can YouTube it, you can whatever, and play around with it. Maybe just bullet points are good for you. I liked to print off all my lecture slides and then I would write notes. I have ADHD, so I needed everything to be very color coded. Because it gave it my brain needed something else to do to stay like interested and stimulated. So like main top like vocab words were yellow, lab values were in green, blue was like if it was a underlying like a assessment finding, pink was a different thing. So like that was helpful for me, but it's going to be different for you. Some people found it really helpful to record lectures, go home and listen to them again, and then break down copy like things and explain it back. You might not be someone that really even like loves notes at all. Some people write novels. I would just play around, look for the different ways that people study and take notes. YouTube has a ton of people who show how they take notes in different way, and just play around with it a little bit. And even if the things seem kind of like funky, just see, and something might fit and finally click. And I like, for me, notes were never overly helpful. Like they gave me something to do in class, but the thing that actually made me learn the most was like in NP school when some of your lectures were recorded, or I would watch a YouTube video or watch a Picmonic video, and I could just play it 2 or 3 times. And then at the end, I would try to summarize what I had just listened to. So it wasn't even notes, because I'm not a reading. Why am I typing? A reading learner. I'm much more of an audio visual learner. So play around with that and just see, because you might not be a notes taking human either. And you might just need to color while you're in class with I was that person. I like brought out my thing. I'm like, all right, I have like 7 different highlighters. I have 5 different colored pens. I'm just going to be like constantly trading things out. And everyone in my class was like, except for my fellow ADHDers who like also had theirs out. And they were like, this is the best. Dylan Berger, starting my ADN program tomorrow. Do you have any tips on getting through these first 3 weeks? Oh, Dylan, you're going to be just fine. So have your day of doom, like we talked about. Okay. The first few weeks are also, just know this. Okay. So know this, the first few weeks of the semester are the worst because there's so much ahead of you, right? And you can't really tackle it all, especially in the very first week, because you're just getting your footing and they haven't really dived into like everything you're doing. And all you have is tasks ahead and nothing accomplished. So just know that that first week is just going to be a lot, and give yourself lots of space to just kind of be a mess if you need to be, because it's totally fine to be overwhelmed. But also, I don't know if you can really do this today because it starts tomorrow, but as soon as you have it available to you, have that day of doom and plan it out, because a lot of the stress of the beginning of the semester is just knowing how much you have to do. But if you have already planned out your entire semester and you only have to look, you filled everything out, all the due dates, all the assignments, all the labs, all the clinical, and then for the whole semester, and then you never have to look at it again. But like, oh, I have already put it in there. It's already been addressed. We've already had our moment about it. And now I'm just going to, at the beginning of the week of a standard semester, I would look 2 weeks ahead and be like, okay, what exam do I need to start studying for? Is there a paper I need to start working on? Is there a project? Maybe look 3 weeks ahead and just start chunking away at the time with, again, realistic is the key here. Tasks. What can you really get done that day? And then as you're going, if you're like, oh, wow, I way overestimated. Hello, overestimators. I'm here with you. What I can get done in a day, reevaluate, right? And then reprioritize, figure out like, ooh, maybe I can't do as much of this. I can do more of this. And then cross everything off, get everything done for your day. And at the end of the day, do something fun. Don't be like, oh, I'm going to get ahead on tomorrow. Like, no, because you already planned it out so that you have time to go to family events or a party or something like that, like work. You already planned it out, knowing that you looked 3 weeks ahead. So you're preparing ahead of time anyway for everything. And then you planned it all out. And at the end of the day, just chill, go do whatever you would like that gives back to you. So you feel like I've accomplished all my tasks because I was realistic. I crossed them all off, which is so satisfying. And now I'm just going to relax, which is good for my mental health and keeps me from feeling so overwhelmed. And I don't need to be overwhelmed because I did the things and I've already we're not going to worry about the whole semester. We're just going to worry about this week. We're only ever looking at 1 week. Okay. You're going to be just fine. So just have your day of doom, warn everyone you know. And just warn everyone you know. Be like, I'm going to have a hard day on this day. It's going to be fine. Claudia said, best test subject for HESI. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Same as the T's. Just find any old book. It'll be totally fine. Leak book. Nurse Scott, yes. So for the AANP question, when we had talked about the AANP review book, this is what it was. It was the leak book. For the FNP boards exam, I would buy it early and use the leak book to study not only for boards, you might need to buy an updated one by the time you take boards, but buy it early and then use that in your acute and chronic care classes. Leak. Excellent. It was a great, great book. Great book. Let me see. Scott's giving advice. She said, so Sancha said, Nurse Scott, have you read my notes? I write down everything. I need better studying habits. And Nurse Scott said, yeah, stop it. He's laying down the law. You're not recording your learning for posterity. You're creating a tool to learn new things. It can be messy. It can be incomplete. So long as you learn from it. Yes. Draw, doodle, be creative with your studying and your notes. Okay. A lot of the times my notes were just a hot mess, but it got what I needed to do out of them and you're going to be just fine. Claudia said, and what if you fail halfway through the nursing program? How do you get back up to reapply and finish? It's been super hard mentally. It is super hard mentally. It's super duper hard mentally and it's exhausting and it's a really long road. And so never ever beat yourself up for just needing to even just like take time away, you know what I mean? And like reprioritize and take care of yourself. And I cannot stress enough that if you fail, first of all, just be in communication with your school. Your school wants your money. Okay. So bottom line, that's what they would like. And they want you to succeed because they need their pass rates to look good. Okay. So the school has a vested interest in getting you there. So if you are concerned, honestly, go to whoever seems the nicest, in a dean, whatever, one of your teachers and see who they can talk to. And just say, like, explain how you're feeling and what can you do to improve. This is like before, if you were going to fail. And then if you do fail, usually they have a remediation type of thing where, you can fail a certain number of classes and they're really going to try to work with you probably. And know that even if you do fail, like that's okay. You know what I mean? That nursing school scares the crap out of you about failing. I have failed many tests. I have failed so many skills checkoffs. And they made it sound like before I did these things that it was the end of the world. And then come to find out you fail them and they're like, well, you have to, take it again. And you can kind of like work with them a little though. I know some schools have like a hard cutoff and they're just the devil. And I'm sorry if you go to one of those schools, but most schools will let you try again and just kind of giving yourself like, it's okay if you aren't perfect at something new right away. It's okay if to not get something the first time. Like I said, I am not the best student. And the school was like hard for me. And I get the feeling of like feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm failing, but no one else is. And once you kind of drop that and realize that some people have better strengths, mine is not exam taking. Mine is not paper writing. Mine is not academics, right? But I am good at talking to people. I'm good at putting things together in real life. Like when actual patients are in front of me, I'm like, oh yes, like I can figure this out very quickly. And I'm fairly sure, Claudia, that you have wonderful skills, even if they aren't academic. But we can keep trying. And even if it never ever works out, you've learned something from the experience, right? But usually schools do want to work with you. You're going like do what you need if you want to continue with school. Like if you fail out of a program, maybe look into applying to a different one. If you fail one class, retake it. It sucks. It does. You might bump back a semester or a year in terms of nursing school, but the reality is you're not going to care in like 3 years. Like right now, it's a huge deal, but it's not going to be a huge deal in 3 years when you're a nurse. You know what I mean? So, like, it's all about perspective and realizing that your values, even if they aren't academic, it doesn't make you any less great than Alice, who's over there with like all of her A pluses. And you're like, whatever. Let me see. Okay. David Ramirez says, my BSN program started on the 22nd. I was accepted a week prior. Oh my gosh, that's like a whirlwind. Very unexpectedly and had to move. Holy moly, David, that's a lot. I'm an extrovert and want to make friends, but everyone just wants to go home after class. How do I make friends? I've asked everyone out for dinner and studying multiple times, but I don't want to keep offering and looking desperate. Oh, friend. Oh no. No, that's a good question. So I would probably see, is there like a general like Facebook group? It's also early, right? Okay. Yeah. So this program started on the 22nd. People are still thinking that they're fine, David. People are going to realize in about a week that they're not fine. You're going to have your first tests, and some people are not, it's not going to go well, right? And that is usually when I found that people wanted to become friends. That's when I kind of, well, that's about, I think, when most friendships started to form at my school was about the 3 or 4 week mark of my accelerated nursing program when we were all like, well, I want to poop myself. Does anyone else want to poop themselves? Like, shall we get together and study? Yes, excellent. Because you were terrified. People right now still might have false confidence. They will be broken down and they will know. Like, so if there's any way to communicate with the whole group, hey, you want to study here after like whatever? Hey, does anyone want to go through with here? And then kind of ask surrounding like the beginning of an exam. And it's just hard in the beginning. I would say it's only a week or two in. Just give it time, especially if you're extroverted. People are going to remember that and they're going to be like, oh, hi, David. Like, do you want to actually maybe study? It will happen. The fact that it hasn't happened in the first 2 weeks is not like super shocking. I would just give it like a couple more weeks and I think you're going to be very popular, but just give it a minute. People just need to like realize what is happening to them. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is not good. Let me scroll down and find. Hi, Sophia. Welcome. Thanks for being a channel member. I appreciate you. Oh, Chad's here. Hi, Chad. Morning, all. Morning. Where do you live? I'm trying to find. Scroll down. The second opinion is like telling me to read certain comments. I'm like, I can't find them. I can't find them. Lydia, any advice for people who work full time while going to nursing school? Okay. So I worked full time while going to nursing school. It was brutal. I'll be very honest. Very brutal and, yikes. Very brutal. It, it's going to suck. Okay. No beating around this bush. Lydia, it's going to suck. But it's going to be over one day. So you just kind of have to look at that. You're going to really want to plan things out. If you can get a job at all that is longer days and less days, that way you can clump them. So I was a waitress, a bartender, and I worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday doubles. So I worked like 12-hour days, pretty much, sometimes a little bit longer. And then I worked those days and school was Monday through Thursday. Okay. So it was like helpful to break them up. If not, just lots and lots of planning, being very realistic, having very frank conversations with loved ones in your life. If you have a partner, if you have kids, and being like, I am not going to be able to function very much. We need to rearrange life because hopefully this was a shared decision of like, hey, I'm going to do this or you're going to do this. If you have fewer responsibilities, it's, I don't want to say easier, but like I mean, you don't have to explain to anyone why your house is a mess because things are just going to be messy. Okay. You're not going to eat probably the best. You're not going to have the cleanest house. You are not going to be able to do all of the cutesy craftsy things. If you're like a cutesy craftsy person who always like makes everyone, birthday cards, probably not going to be able to do that for the next couple of years. You're going to have to cut things, but just find your most important 2 things or 3 things and hold on to those and make time for those or those people or that activity. And then everything else kind of has to fall to the wayside, which really is painful. I know. And if you're in if you have a partner, really being frank with them so that there's not disappointment. I found that out the hard way. I was like, I can keep up with everything. And then it became very clear that I could not keep up with everything. And it was much harder afterwards to then have to go back and be like, now that I've disappointed you, can you actually take over all of these things? Like, I just don't have time. Or we can just live like in chaos. And it was kind of a combination of both, realizing that like later in life, your house can, be clean and you can cook real meals. But for now, peanut butter and jelly, I ate every single day, at least once a day in nursing school. Because I was working full time and it was just hard. Just hard. So you can do the thing, just a lot of planning and a lot of letting go, and you'll be okay. Aaron said, best resource for dosage calc. I'm terrible at math and starting this semester. We have a dosage calc exam for each class and I have to pass with a 90%. Lecturio has dosage calc. That would be, I think that's like, that was helpful. And then just practice tests. Any kind of case study you can find online is helpful. And finding whatever method works for you, just like kind of Googling around and just doing a bunch of practice questions, which is like not overly helpful. Rhonda Aaron is the same person who teaches Patho, and she teaches dosage calc. And I thought hers were really helpful. Lecturio does have a few dosage calc things I think that I put up on YouTube that take you through case studies. But look for case studies on like YouTube of the different types, right? So you're going to want one that converts like weight. You're going to want one that converts ounces to like over into like milliliters. You're going to want one that does adult or peds doses. You're going to want one, just like try to Google just like case studies for all of these and see how people work it out differently. Everyone has a different method, I've realized, of how they kind of get to the final solution in these. Mine was very like weird. But I just use like fraction, like canceling each other out. So I would put like, on top of the fraction, I put what I have. And then at the end, what I needed. And then I would just cancel each other out with like equivalencies, but just search around and see what person you like the best. There's lots of ways out there, and practice questions are helpful. Maybe even ask your teacher for like practice questions. Be like, hey, is there like a previous year's test that I could look at? Because they know that like dosage calc just scares the poop out of everybody. And I don't know why they make it so much like this, where it's like, hey, if you even want to go to clinical, you have to pass with a 90%. And it's a difficult subject for most people. And they just make it needlessly stressful. Like, why not be like, hey, but like, it's okay if you don't get it on the first try. Like, hey, then maybe we'll review it a little bit better. No, they're like, we're not going to review this. You have to learn it on your own. If you don't pass, you can't go. And you're like, because they're the devil. They're the devil. When I rule the world, that won't be a requirement. Okay, it just won't. So on to Ray. Last question. Whilst in being in school, I like that word. That's fun. Whilst being in school, we discovered I have MCTD. They're wanting to implement treatments which will suppress my immune system for a time. How can I protect my health whilst in clinical? I would wear a mask and wash your hands, and just kind of be aware if there are there's no reason for you to have to go into certain rooms. You know what I mean? So like, I would just tell your clinical instructors, be like, hey, I am immunocompromised. You don't necessarily have to go into like explicit detail. Be like, I am like medically immunocompromised. And it is like, even get a note from your provider. Like, I would probably write you a note to say like, hey, we don't really need to be going into infectious disease rooms. Okay. So like flu, no, COVID, no. Anything where you have to wear like necessarily like maybe even droplet precautions, or like where you're wearing a mask, especially I would not go into anything that needs an N95. that is not unreasonable. It's not like you're not going to learn some of these skills. At this point, someone else can explain to you what, like, I mean, you probably don't need, like, what a nasal cannula and all. Like, some people will need those things even if they aren't infectious. Wash your hands. You wear a mask at all times, and get a lot of sleep because your immune system really likes sleep. And so just make sure you're taking care of yourself as well. And just make sure, like, you're taking care of you. And that will be wildly helpful. Okay. Let me see. I think we are at, oh, good. Good. We're at an hour. Perfect. Shanta, you really did have the last question. We'll probably wrap this up like here. Keisha, I talked about NP boards earlier. We can just, if you go back, there will be timestamps in a day or two, and go back. And I had a whole spiel about that. Nurse Adrian, hello, hello. My motto over and over was failure is not an option. There you go. If I fail, mine was if I fail, I have to do this again. And I hate this. So whatever you need to do in order to get through it. And it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's okay to change your mind too. I feel like we should throw that out there. If you get partway through this and you're like, this is not what I thought it was, I changed my mind. That's okay, friends. It's not a moral failing to change your mind and realize something is not for you. Okay. It's also not a moral failing to fail an exam and just not be like academically amazing. Personally, I think people who are academically amazing have a harder time when they go out into nursing because, like me, I've failed a bajillion times in order to get here. So I'm very used to it. So when I failed in nursing and they were like, Liz, you're wrong. Liz, you're wrong. Oh, I messed this up. And my preceptor was constantly like, oh my gosh, like, how do you, like, when you're a new nurse, you just don't know a lot. But I was very used to that feeling. I was like, oh yeah, this is familiar. But my peers who were like straight A nurses, they were a little bit distraught. A little bit distraught. They're like, what is this feeling? I'm like, it's failure, which is very normal, but they had to get oriented to it later. And it was hard. It was hard for them. So there's your silver lining, my friends. If you are not the straight A human, one day it will be helpful for you. Okay. Let me see. I think that's everything. I have a whole, like I said, go check out Lecturio. I have a coupon code for that for nurses and NPs. And I think it's very helpful. And I am constantly telling them what I want in it. And they probably hate me and regret the day that they hired me because every Tuesday morning we have a meeting and I'm like, I think this should change. And I think this should change. And I think this should change. And they're like, oh my gosh. But then they do it. So that's very kind. And otherwise, Picmonic, I use that too, also helpful. Their videos are more like quirky. So if you are a more abstract human, that might be more helpful. What else? I did do a whole nursing school survival guide with them, with Lecturio, that teaches all the, like, I call them soft skills, but it's like all the questions I had in nursing school of how to actually get through school, how to study, how to actually plan things out in a more concrete way, how to deal with teachers who suck, how to deal with clinicals, like a whole, like, it's quite extensive. So if you do end up signing up for that, go check that out because that has like answers to every question. It's like 5 hours long. Don't watch the whole 5 hours. But it breaks it down by actual question. So that's like this, but on steroids. And I'm very honest in it. So they were kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is a good thing for nursing students to watch. I'm not so sure. And I was like, no, it's fine. So that's there. I'm doing a live event with them tomorrow. I think if you go to Lecturio's Instagram, you can sign up for it. It's free, but I'm talking about like studying tips, my best study tips. I should probably know this. I'm the only speaker. Study tips, exam tip, my favorite study tip, my favorite exam tip, and my favorite clinical tip. I already gave you my clinical tip, which is find one thing a day and then ask them about their process. But for everything else. And I think that is all that we have. We are doing a live on Thursday. I saw Nurse Scott wonderfully plugging this. Join us on Thursday. We always get off topic, bring questions. Yes, the topic is we're going to be looking at North Carolina, and they recently passed a law. I have to look into it because I have not. Scott's looked into it a lot more than I have. Something about the Supreme Court saying nurses can be held liable legally. He says it's in civil court. So we're going to look at that and kind of dissect what that actually means. Are we happy about it? Are we sad about it? And it'll be a panel discussion. So we'll have lots and lots of people to weigh in. We'll probably disagree. We usually do. And just have lively discussions. So that will be Thursday at 3 p.m., 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If you have other questions, just leave them in the comments and I will answer them there. If you're watching on the replay and something or your question didn't get answered, I tried to answer as many as I could. Liable for Chad, like you can like get, if you follow orders, it looked like, then you can like get civilly charged if they decide the order was bad, which sounds bad. Yeah, civilly charged for your own work. In North Carolina, there was some protections, but then that like they are falling, I don't know. It looks like you're just being held not only against your nursing license, but against like you can get civilly charged, which happens in other states. Obviously, we've seen that. But some of the things that North Carolina is also the one that went after that nurse when all the other prison guards with that poor individual who passed away. And all the other prison guards were the ones that actually ended up causing the person to pass away, but they blamed the nurse somehow, and she's the only one that's getting blamed. So that's that same state. We'll look at it. Yes, join us Thursday to find out. I will have researched it more before then. Lydia, I'm glad it was very helpful, friends. And no matter, you're going to be fine. Everyone's going to be fine. Everything is going to work out. It is all going to be okay, my friends. Thanks for joining us tonight. I hope you have a peaceful and restful rest of your day. And remember that you, my friends, are more than enough, no matter what grade you get. In the grand scheme of things, it's okay. You are not alone. David, they will find you. They will want to be your friend. They will. Everyone feels the same way you feel. And you, my friends, can do hard things like nursing school. It's the devil. You're not a problem. It's the problem. Okay. Never forget that. You are not the problem here. Nursing school is the problem. Thanks for being here, friends. And yes, Erin, thanks to everyone who gave excellent advice in the comment section. I appreciate you. And yes, Sophia, thanks. Hit the like button and subscribe. Do compressions in order to raise the vital signs of the video an odd number of times. If you do it an even number of times, it kills it. But an odd number of times tells the YouTubes that we love the things. It helps support the channel. Also, becoming a channel member helps support the channel. I have a list of names here of all the lovely humans who are supporters of the channel. We appreciate you. Thanks for being friends. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your night. That's all of my infomercial. Good night. I lived in Michigan for too long, and I have the Michigan good or the Midwestern goodbye. Okay. We just keep rambling. I'm sorry. I've decided it's a feature of my personality, and we're just going to live with it. KDK, I'm sorry you missed it. It will be on the replay. Christina, good vibes. Yes. All right. Good night, friends.